So before I start explaining what we are going to do in this part of the tutorial, I would like to take a moment to say thank you to all of you guys. I would like to say thank you to all the subscribers. I have more than 1,300 subscribers right now, and that's very amazing. When I started this channel, I had no idea that so many people would actually subscribe to this channel. So thank you very much for that, and I would like to say thank you for everyone that is making requests to my tutorials, and everyone that is coming with all the positive comments, and that's helping me a lot when I'm creating new tutorials. It's really a nice pat on the shoulder when someone likes my tutorial and then leave a positive comment and gives a thumbs up or shares the video. Besides that, I would also like to say thanks to everyone who's supporting me by buying my projects. A lot of you guys are doing that, and that's so awesome that you're actually helping me by getting all these projects here. And also, I would like to say thanks to everyone who's like supporting me by becoming a patron, by going to my website and signing up to be a patron, so that you'll support me every month instead of just supporting me once. And remember, if you become a patron, you can get every single project that I have ever made just by paying $5 for a month. A new feature I have added on my website, you can find it through the link below. I have added all the games or all the tutorials that I have made. I've converted them into a web playing game, so you can actually test out every single tutorial before you run through it and write all the code. So if you go to my website, you can find the exact tutorial that you want to follow, and then you can test it out in the browser to see if the functionality of this tutorial is actually something you want to incorporate in your own game. So let's get started on the actual introduction to this tutorial. This tutorial is a tutorial about creating a bank system or a chest system, so that you can actually take your items from your inventory and put them somewhere else, so you don't have to carry them around with you at all times. I've also gotten a lot of requests about a equipment system for this inventory, and I am going to create an equipment system later, but this tutorial is going to work us slowly towards that setup. So we're going to create some things and set up some things here that will make it easier for us to create that equipment system later in other tutorials. So let's have a look at this. Right now I have added a brown box here, which is my chest or my bank that I can open up and put my items from my inventory into. If I go close to it, nothing happens, but I have added a system here so that when you are nearby it and you press the E button, well, then this other inventory opens up, which is your bank. And if you move away from it, it disappears because now you're out of range to interact with it. So when you're close enough to this chest here, you can press the E button to interact with it. I might add some functionality that says when you get closer to the right on the screen, press E to interact with the chest. And of course, you can always add your own functionality so that you open this one up on the same button as you use your own inventory on. So let's have a look here. We can pick up some items. Let's pick up some potions and some swords here. And maybe I don't want all these items in my inventory, so I can open up my chest. And then I can say I only want to carry around one sword, and I don't need 2 mana potions, I only need 1. And I also only need 2 health potions, so I can put this over here. So now I've taken some of my items from my own inventory and stored them in the in the chest. So I can either close the chest just by pressing E, or I can just move away from it to close it. So now I can pick up some more items, and I can go back to my chest here and open it up, and my items are still here. So the save function also works for this. So if I would, for example, save my equipment now by pressing the save button down here, I would be able to go out of my game and reopen it, and then I could load my game by pressing the load button. So all my items pops back into my inventory here, and all the items that I just saved before are also still here in my chest. So this is what we're going to work towards. So before we start the actual coding and start moving stuff around, I would like to explain you what we're going to do, because creating this bank functionality requires us to change a little around in the things that we already made. Because if we click on our inventory here, you can see that we have some different items here as prefabs or as public objects, so that we can reach them from within our inventory. For example, we have our tooltip, which is needed for our inventory to show a tooltip whenever we mouse over something. And if I would create a new inventory, let's say duplicate this, you'll see that both these inventories has all these objects on it. And this is not very cool, because we might want to make a lot of chests in our game, and inside our game we would need to take every single item and put on every single chest. So let's say we have a level with 5 chests, and we would need to add all these objects to every single chest. So instead of just adding all these objects to every single chest, I would like to introduce a new class called an inventory manager. So this inventory manager is going to contain all the shared functionality for every single inventory, which is the hover icon, which is the tooltips, the split stack UI and everything. So we're going to create a new class or a new script called inventory manager, and all our inventories are going to access this through a reference or through a singleton, and then we're going to access the things that we need to have shared. So the inventory only needs to keep track of its own items. So as you can see here, we have the inventory manager on top in the graphics, and both kind of inventories are accessing the functionality that is up there. For example, a tooltip. So with that in place, let's start moving some stuff around so that we can actually create this bank functionality. So first of all, we need to go to our scripts, and we need to create a new script here, because we already have our inventory, our item, our player, and our slot class. So the next thing we need to do is to add our inventory manager. So right click in your script folder, click create, and select your preferred script. I'm going to go with C# as usual, and then I'm going to create an inventory manager. So this inventory manager is going to keep track of everything that we actually need to share among our inventories. So in your hierarchy here, you can click create and create empty to add a new game object. This game object can be renamed to inventory manager, so just click on it and press F2 and then write inventory manager. When you've done that, you need to add the script to that inventory manager. So just grab it from your script folder here and add it to the inventory manager so that it sits on it, because now we need to add all the functionality to it so that we can actually transfer all these different objects here to the inventory manager, so it's shared among the inventories. So double click on your inventory manager to open it up. So you can find it in here. And in this script, we need to move stuff from our inventory over here so that we actually take all the shared functionality and put it into this manager. So all inventories need to have an access to this inventory manager, so we might as well create our singleton right away. So we can make a private static inventory manager, and this is just going to be called instance. And as usual, by creating a singleton, we are able to access this inventory manager from everywhere in our code, so that we will be able to go to our inventory and say anywhere random here in our inventory, say inventory manager dot instance and then dot hover icon or whatever, for example, to access the hover icon from the inventory manager. So if we jump back here, we need to create a property so that we can actually access it from in here, because right now if I write inventory manager, I won't be able to access that instance, as you can see. So to be able to do that, I need to make a property. I can right click, refactor, and press encapsulate field. And if you don't have Visual Studio or any other IDE that can actually do this, you need to write this code yourself. So we don't need the set part, but we need the get part here. And we need to make an if statement that says if our instance equals null. So if it doesn't exist, then it's equal to null. Then we need to find it. So we need to say instance equals game object. Actually, can I just say find equals find object of type, and then I'm just gonna give it an inventory manager here. So now I'm gonna set my instance equal to that and return it. I don't need this. I can do it like this. So now I have created my singleton pattern so that I can actually access it. So in my inventory, I would be able to say inventory manager.instance now dot, and then access some functionality inside the inventory manager. Just delete this. Okay. So there are a few things that we need to move from our inventory in here. So underneath our instance here, we can start putting in some stuff. Actually, we can do it under our instance. So we have those two together, just like that. So first of all, let's look into our inventory and see what we have up here that we actually need to move. So the rows is individual for every inventory, because every single inventory has a different amount of slots and items and everything. Empty slots, well, that's also individual for that inventory. Hover offset, individual. Width and height, also individual. Padding, also individual. And then we have the slot size, that could also be individual. But the slot prefab here is something that would be shared between every single inventory, because every inventory would need a prefab of a slot so that it can create all the slots in the inventory. So you can pick that and you can cut it by Control X, go to your inventory manager and paste it in here. And don't mind all these errors here. We are going to fix that later when we have moved everything, so that we use the slot prefab from our inventory manager. So if we go back here, let's see what else we need. The icon prefab here is also something that is shared between them, because all inventories need an icon prefab. So when we instantiate the hover object, we can just access this icon prefab from our inventory manager. Our hover object here is also shared, because we need to create that hover object every time we click on an item. And for the hover object, we also have a property here. So go to your properties, see if we can find it. We should have a hover object. Excuse me, we don't have a property here, of course, because we need to make a property later. So just scratch what I just said. We only need to move the hover object that I just did. We don't have our property yet. So yeah, what else do we need to move? We have some objects, mana, health and stuff. Let's jump, see if we can find those. Just search for it. If I search mana, see if we have them here. So in our inventory we also have mana, and we have health, and we have weapon, and all these three needs to be cut and put into the inventory manager here, because we need some prototypes of all our items when we put them in the inventory. And we also need the drop item. Let's see if we go back in inventory tools. I hope this is not confusing when I'm jumping back and forth, but I remember we had something with like a drop item or something. Yeah, here we go. We have this item here which we are dropping on the ground. So when we take an item out of our inventory and put it on the ground, well, we also need to move that from our inventory into our inventory tools here, our inventory manager. And we also need to grab all of these objects here, but we don't need the static objects anymore because we're putting it in another class. So we will actually have less field now. So tooltip object needs to be cut, and size text object and visual text object. So we can basically delete these static ones just like this. Yes, and then we can cut these three: tooltip object, size text object, and visual text object. As you can see, this red line appears now, and that's because we haven't included the Unity Engine.ui namespace. So just right click on the text, go to resolve, and then click using Unity Engine.ui. If you can't do that, then just go to the top of your script and write using Unity Engine.ui. So what else do we need to move? We need to move the canvas. I think we have a canvas group here, also have a canvas here. So this canvas here needs to be moved from our inventory to our inventory manager. So just cut that, go to your inventory manager and paste it. And our inventory also have some slots called from and to, and these needs to be shared among every single inventory, because when you take something from, well, then the to slot might be in another inventory, so that's very important that we take these and cut them and put them into the inventory manager so that we can move stuff around between the different inventories. So right now they're static, and they shouldn't be static now, so just remove the static keyword here. We also have a reference to every single object that we click in our inventory, so we should find something called clicked. I think that's what I call it here. So we have a private static game object called clicked in our fields as well, and we need to take that and cut it and put it into our inventory manager as well, because whenever we click an item, well, this item should also be shared among every single inventory. And again, we don't need to keep it static. So we only have a few more things left that we actually need to move. We have our stack text, see if we can find it, it's right here. And we need to cut that and put it into the inventory manager as well, because that's also shared among all inventories. Like, this is the text that is written when you click an item and want to split a stack and want to write that, and we also need to share that among every inventory. Then we need the exact game object that we're using when we're splitting something, and this is this one, select stack size, the UI element that we're using when we split a stack. It's also shared among every inventory. Then we also have a split amount, and we have a max stack size, and we have a moving slot here. So split amount is the amount that we just split, we have in our hand, and we have the max stack count, which is the maximum amount of stacks we can split. And we have our moving slot, where we put our stuff in temporarily when we're moving something. So all three of these, just cut them and put them into the inventory manager as well. And as usual, this one is static. We don't need to keep it static, so just remove the static keyword and save. So the last field we need to move is our event system. And the event system is used to figure out if we're hovering over an inventory or not. And we only have one event system in our scene, and we just need to have a reference to that in every single inventory. So you need to cut this one and paste it into the inventory manager as well. And as you can see, it's complaining here with the red squishy line, and you can actually make it stop complaining by right-clicking on it, click resolve, use UnityEngine.event system. And as usual, if you don't have that, just go up here and write using UnityEngine.event system. So the last thing we need to move is actually a function in the inventory. So we need to go to our inventory, and then we need to find the function called setStackInfo. Here we go. And setStackInfo is a function that sets the information when we want to split a stack or move some items around. And you just need to take the whole function here and cut it from your inventory, and then go to the inventory manager and paste it. And you can actually get rid of start and update. We don't really need that right now, so just delete them. Right here we have a red squishy line with the tooltip, and that's because our tooltip is not called tooltip anymore. We are using what is called a tooltip object. Let's see if we can find it. We have this one, tooltip object, and that's the one we're going to use down there. So just go down to your stack info function and write tooltip object, and the red squishy line should disappear. Let's see if I can spell it correctly. There we go, it's a little small t. There we go. And then save. So right now we have 101 errors, and that's totally that's of course because we moved lots of things from our inventory into this new class here, and we need to make it possible to access all these new things from our inventory. So let's start from one end. Let's see, we have our from and our to here, and our inventory needs to be able to access those, and we need to create some properties to access them. So you should right click on them, click refactor and encapsulate field, and you should also do that on the to here. There we go. So now you should be able to access it from your inventory code here. So if you jump back into your inventory script, we need to change some things around to remove all these 101 errors. What we need to do is that we need to replace every from with inventory manager dot instance dot from. If you do that, then you'll see that this one has been replaced. So basically you can copy paste this one and you can replace every single from in your code like this. Besides that, well, then you can also do it another way. You can actually press Ctrl F, and then you can search and replace, and you can replace from with inventory manager.instance.from if that's what you want. But as you can see, from is also written in our comments, and it might fuck up our comments and fuck up other things. But you can give it a try if you want to and see if it works out for you. Else you can just search your, as you can see here, your error list here and find all the places where there's written from, and then you can double click on it to replace it. So over here we can write from in our error list down here. Then you can see we are showing 16 out of 101 errors. So basically what we need to do is to double click on every single one of them, and then every time it's written from, just copy paste inventory manager that instance.from. So you can basically just find that and copy paste it once, and then double click on every single from like this. Then you should be able to fix all these errors. And as you can see, the more we paste, the less errors we are going to have here. So I'm just going to cut the video and let this finish this with from and to. We paste all these because we need to do the exact same thing with the to, as you can see here. Let's just finish these that I'm going to show you. There we go. So now we don't have any from errors anymore. And we need to do the same thing with to, so just find one place where it's written to and write inventory manager dot instance dot to, and then copy that, and then go down here in your error list and write to, and then you need to find every single line where that's written. Okay, there's a lot of things here. There we go. So every line where the name to does not exist in the current context, just double click on it, go to it, and paste this on top of it. So now I have replaced all two errors. I just cut from that to that, so you don't have to look at me replacing all the twos. And I'm down to 88 errors now. So we need to go back into our inventory manager, and we need to add some more stuff here so that we can actually access all these things. So we already have our clicked object here, and we need to make a property of that. So do that by right clicking or writing this code, and then we can go to our inventory, and here we can write clicked, and then we need to click on one of them, and we need to write inventory manager. I can't spell apparently. Let's see here, manager dot instance dot clicked. Here we go. And I can basically take that and copy paste it all the places here where it's complaining about clicked. And you need to do the exact same thing for every single error you have here. And in the end you're gonna end up with no errors, of course. So now I have replaced all the clicked, and all the errors are down to 0 when I right clicked. So I'm down to 81 errors now. So jump back into your inventory tools, and then we need to add some more stuff. We can take split amount as well. So see if we can find that. There we go, split amount, and create a property to access that. And then we need to go to our inventory, search for split amount. There we go. There we have 11 errors. So go to the first one, write inventory tools, manager, sorry, yeah, instance dot split amount here. And then you just take this one again and copy paste it everywhere where there's written split amount error. And when you're done with the split amount, you should be down to about 70 errors. If you're missing out some errors, it doesn't matter, because it's going to be easier for you to localize it whenever you have tried to remove as many errors as possible. So you can see here we have the visual text object as well. So go to inventory and find your visual text object. Here we go, and make it, it's actually already public, as you can see. So you can actually just click on visual text object, and basically we actually don't need to do like this anymore. So you can delete these lines in start, because here we were setting some variables here, and we don't need that anymore because we can use them directly from our inventory manager. So you can delete these. Let's see, then we have some visual text here. So you can write inventory manager dot instance dot visual text, I think, actually, just like that. Let's see. There you go, visual text object dot text. So just copy that, and if you click on every single visual text, you should be able to get it. I don't think there are a lot of them. Nope, we're out of them already. So let's see, we have a lot of things with the tooltip. So basically we can go to inventory manager. Let's see, our tooltip object here is public already. So go to inventory, click on tooltips, and say inventory manager dot instance dot tooltip object. There we go, copy it and paste it on all tooltips. We have a couple here. I'm sorry, this is like very redundant work and it's very boring, but we have to do it to make it work later. Yes. Let's see what errors else we have. We have weapon, stack, text, slot prefab, and so on. So what you need to do is to take all these errors and fix them. As you can see, we have moving slot. There's a lot of them. So we might as well get those out of the way first. So if we find moving here, see if we have moving slot somewhere. There we go, private moving slot. Make it a property here, and then go to one of the moving slot errors. Here you can write moving, and we should just replace it with inventory manager dot instance dot moving slot. There we go. Copy this and paste it everywhere you find it as well. So I just replaced all the moving slot errors. Let's see, what else do we have? We have a lot of select stack size. So let's go there and find select stack size. It's already public, as you can see, so we don't need to make any changes there. So click on select stack size, and in start we don't need to set this anymore, so we can delete that. Let's just write select stack size. There we go. Let's find one of them. Inventory manager and instance dot select stack size, and we can just copy this and paste it everywhere we have the select stack size. Yes, and let's see what I have here. It's something else. Okay, so then we have select stack size. If the errors doesn't disappear here, well, then you can press build and rebuild, and then they should disappear, because Visual Studio or your IDE might be slow at updating. If we double click on these errors, you'll see that it complains that inventory doesn't have the select stack size anymore because it's inside your inventory manager. So you might as well go to your slot class as well, and then copy paste it here as well, so that you get it from the correct class now. So let's delete this. Now we're down to 42, about 42. What else do we have? A lot of, we have some max stack count. Hover object is very large here, I can see. So let's go to our inventory manager and find our hover. And our hover object is private static, and it doesn't need to be static, so just delete static and create a refactor on this, or write this code yourself, and then go back into the hover object here, just write hover. Then we have 11 errors, that's a lot. So we'll write instance, not instance of course, inventory manager, sorry, instance dot hover object. So what we're doing right now, is to change all the references. I know it's a lot of work, but yeah, and then find all the errors and replace them. So now I have changed all the hover object errors, and I'm down to 31 errors now. So what else do we have? We have lots of things. We have a lot of things with Canvas, I can see. So let's jump into our inventory manager and write Canvas. And as you can see, it's already public, so we don't need to do anything here. We just need to jump to our inventory, and we need to write Canvas here. And when we search for that, find it here and write inventory manager.instance.canvas. There we go. And of course, copy it and then paste it everywhere there is some error with a canvas. And as you can see, there are 3 other errors left after you have pasted all the inventory manager instance canvas. So double click on them, and then you'll see that it takes you to inventory.instance.canvas inside the slot class. So you also need to change these by replacing just like this. So it uses the inventory manager singleton instead of the what is called the inventory singleton. Let's see, where else do we have it? Here. Then save. So we're down to 18 errors. This is starting to look like it's gonna work. So let's see what else. Different errors, lots of different errors. So let's take them from one end. Weapon. Weapon is already public, so you can basically just write inventory manager.instance here .weapon, and you can just take and copy that and paste it in front of health and in front of mana, and this is inside the inventory class. You can just click on one of the weapons. It's in the function that loads the inventory here, as I can see. So we have the stack text. Let's see, go to inventory manager, right, stack text, we have it here. It's already public, so we can click on that, find it, and just paste that inventory manager, that instance in front of it. We have another incident of it here. What about the size text? Should also be public, I think. No, it's not. So we need to go back into our inventory manager, write size text. See, we have a size text object here, because it's called size text object instead. So just rename it to size text object in there. Go to inventory, size text object, write inventory manager that instance dot size text object. Copy this if we have more incidents of it, which we don't. The next one I would like to replace is the max stack count. Go to inventory manager, write max stack count, which is private. So we need to create a property for it. Double click on it and write inventory dot sorry, not inventory, inventory manager dot instance dot max stack count here, and just copy that and paste it at the other occurrences of this. So write max to see if we have more. We also have it here. So this is in the inventory stack set stack info, and this is actually a function we don't need anymore in our inventory. I guess I only copied it before, so you can actually take this one and you can actually delete it, because we don't need that function. We took it and we actually just put it inside our inventory manager earlier, but apparently I didn't cut it out. I just copied it instead. So we also have clicked here, and that should be public as well. So we need to make public sorry, inventory tool manager that instance dot click. Let's see, we have it already. You can replace that. So this is basically what you need to do to run around in the rest of your code. We have some event system as well. Let's see, event system, go to inventory manager, let's write event, have it here. It's already public, so go to inventory and can actually do like this, that event system. To have other of them, we have one more here, event system, and then we have some slot prefab, iPhone prefab. Let's see, slot prefab should be public no matter what. So instance dot slot prefab, icon prefab, all our prefabs should be public. So we also have an event system here. see here, we can place that icon prefab, also be public because it's prefab. There we go. And we have 3 our error slip. We have drop item, which should also be public. The drop item. The drop item. And then we have the last error here, which is from our inventory.instance stack info function here in our slot class. And this is because it comes from our inventory manager now. Set stack info comes from here, so we need to go to our slot and write inventory manager instead. There we go. So now I'm down to 0 errors. I hope it's the same with you. If you have some problems here, you just need to find the error, figure out what kind of error it is, and then localize the field that you can't access, and then access it through the inventory manager.instance and then dot and then find it. So we're down to 0 errors. So now we need to jump back into Unity to set all this up. So we need to test if all this works. So save your script and then jump back into Unity. As you can see, I have a few warnings. It says like here it says like inventory select stack size static is never assigned. It's because I forgot to delete it from my script here. So you can see in inventory I have this select stack size static. You can just delete them if you have these warnings because we don't really need them anymore. So let's just save this. Go down here, we'll see that we also have an error here, select stack size static activate itself. So it's actually select stack size from our inventory manager we need to access here. So let's write inventory manager dot select dot instance, sorry, dot select stack size here, and then just delete. There we go. So now that is already replaced. So if you have some errors there that it says doesn't use it, well, then you need to go into your script and delete the original one and replace it with the one from the inventory manager. So we actually should at some point go up here and clean up in the fields here to see if there's something that we don't need anymore. But for now it looks like we actually cleaned up pretty well before by cutting and pasting stuff. So in Unity we should set up our scene, and we can do that by clicking our inventory. As you can see, our inventory doesn't have a lot of things on it anymore, because it only has the necessary things. It's like the size of it and everything, which is individual for every single inventory. So if we click on the inventory manager, there's a lot of different things here that we need to set up. And most of these things actually come from our prefab, or some of them at least. So you need to go to your project folder and then find the prefab folder, because here we need to drag and drop some of the things into our inventory manager. So select the inventory manager so that you can see this script and go to your prefab folder. First of all, we have our slot prefab, and this is the slot prefab, which is just called slot. So take that one and drag it into the slot slot here. So we have an icon prefab as well, so take the icon prefab and drag it into this spot. Then we have our mana, our health, and our weapon. So take the health and drag it into the health slot, take the mana here, drag it into mana slot, and the weapon of course needs to go here. So that's the sword, that needs to go into the weapon slot. Then we have a drop item, which is the drop item prefab here. And then we have our tooltip object, and our tooltip object is actually an object from our scene. And as you can see under our canvas, we have this tooltip here, and this one needs to go into this tooltip object here so that we can show the tooltip whenever we mouse over something. Our size text object is under our tooltip. If we open the tooltip up, we have this size text here, and this one needs to go here so that we can scale our tooltip to the correct size. So drag the size text into this size text object here. So under our tooltip, so canvas, tooltip, size text object, here, size text. Then we have our visual text object, which is just our visual text. So you can see here under our size text, visual text, drag it here. And then we have the canvas. And the canvas is just the canvas here that the inventory is sitting on. So just drag that canvas down here to the canvas slot. Then we have the stack text here, which is sitting on the stack size back. So if you expand that, you'll see there's something called stack text. So just drag that onto the stack text slot here. Stack text slot. Sorry for my mistake here. And then select stack size needs to be added as well. Select stack size is actually the stack size back here. So that's the icon that shows up whenever we click on something to split it. So just drag that into this slot. And the last thing we need to set up is the event system. And we have it up here, so just find it in your hierarchy here and drag it into the event system slot. So now we have actually set everything up so that we can access it from our inventory manager. So when you have set all that up, you should test that everything works as it did before, so that you don't get any errors later when we expand on this. So play your game, pick up a couple of items, just like this, and then let's see if it works. We can take the sort here, and as you can see, the tooltip pops up fine. There's no problem here. Can maybe drop an item. Yeah, we can drop the items on the ground, no problem. Let's see if we can split a stack here. Also works fine. Can we merge them? Also works fine. And we can switch them around. And we should also be able to use our items. Yeah, just like this. So everything works as before. The difference is that we are using our inventory manager now instead of using the inventory itself. So now we are actually set up to create our bank, our bank chest or whatever you want to call it, where we can put some of our items. So I think that's it for this part of the tutorial. I'm gonna split this tutorial into more parts. I've had a lot of requests about maybe some smaller parts, so that's easier for you guys to figure out where you left off when you're leaving a tutorial. So this is kind of an okay spot to take a break. So I'm gonna split this here, and then I'm gonna create another tutorial that continues from this part. So thank you very much for watching. As usual, if you're interested, you can get the project from the link below in the description, and you can try it out on my homepage. You can either get it by buying this specific project, or you can get all my projects by supporting me with $5 for 1 month, and then you'll get every single project that I have made. And if you keep supporting me, then you'll get all projects in the future. And as usual, you will of course get all parts of this tutorial if you already bought one of the parts of it. So thanks for watching.